Hello and welcome back to another Warhammer the Old World Battle Report. Today we have a battle between my Chrace Army of Infamy against some Orcs and Goblins. So in my Chracian army, I've got an Archmage with Silvery Wand, Opal Amulet, and she actually ran Elementalism in this game. And then a Stormweaver with the Lore Familiar and Dark Magic. Core Hill on a chariot, Chracian Chieftain, Battle Standard Bearer on a chariot with the Dragon Helm, Talisman Protection, and Seed of Rebirth. So, so 5 up ward, 5 up armor, and then 5 up ward, 5 up regen, and then a 3 up armor save against shooting and a 4 up in combat on the Chieftain, and then Core Hill has same thing, I think a 3 up armor save against shooting, and then a 5 up regen. So he's a little bit not quite as defensive as the Chieftain. And yeah, 2 level 4 and level 3, which is nice that we have the Stormweaver now to use. Whoops. And then in core, I wanted to try out so I have 10 Woodsmen with heavy armor, another 10 Woodsmen with heavy armor, another 10 Woodsmen with heavy armor, and then 8 Woodsmen, and then 5 Woodsmen, and they have ambushers. Oh, I guess I bought them Lion Cloaks too. And then 10 Sisters of Avalorn, the High Sisters with a Ruby Ring, and 5 Sisters of Avalorn with ambushers and the Boat of the Seafarer. So the thought was to try out the Woodsmen, see what a heavy skirmishing High Elf army is like. The Woodsmen, I think, are very good. They have the Chracian Great Blade, so basically great weapons, and strength for warbows. So lots of shooting. They're skirmishers. I didn't want to go units much bigger than 10 because I think you get into coherency issues when you're either charged or getting charged and then ranking up. And if you can't move into coherency, your guys just die. So yeah, trying to stay away from big units. And then the level 5 with ambushers is just to threaten coming on an ambush. And then the little 5 unit of sisters as well, threatening the possibility of ambush. And with the Bow of the Seafarer, I think there's some times when you could come on the flank and maybe get a shot down a unit of cavalry with her bow that basically shoots like a little bolt thrower. It has a through and through roll. For characters, I wanted to try out the characters on chariots. They could quite nicely be pulled out and replaced by a prince on a dragon, which I think is probably the more competitive choice. But I wanted to try a list without a dragon. Try the Chracian list a little bit more, maybe a bit more thematic. I think I think out of the Army of Infamy, I'm really excited. The Woodsmen are what I'm most excited for. I think they're a very cool, adaptable unit. I know that some people might not love the look of this army because it's basically all skirmishers and characters. But if you've read the Curse of Cain book, where Malekith is invading Chrace to try to get to Avalorn, this really feels like the army that's fighting in that book that's ambushing the Dark Elves, and it's Chracians and Sisters of Avalorn coming out of ambush. They're led by a handmaiden that is a mage, which currently isn't possible. Games Workshop, so maybe that'll change in the future. So I was excited to try this army out, and I'll let you know how it goes. And then my opponent had his Orcs and Goblins. He's got a Black Orc War Boss on Wyvern with Talisman Protection and Ogre Blade, a level 4, a Big Boss Battle Standard Bearer, a level 2 Night Goblin, and then an Orc Big Boss on a Chariot with a Dead Art armor. And his core is 2 units of 8 Goblin Wolf Riders, 30 Night Goblins with the Fanatics and the Spider Banner, and then a unit Black Orcs, and then 4 Bolt Throwers and 2 Doom Divers. So I think maybe not haven't had this exact list on the channel before, but a similar list. And we rolled up, we played Mountain Pass, and we used the adaptation from the Canhammer Team Tournament pack. So it's basically a normal Mountain Pass, but the terrain layout is set. And then there are additional rules for the team with the most unit strength in their opponent's deployment zone gets like a bonus 100 or 150 victory points, and then the side with the most banners in their opponent's deployment zone also gets a victory point bonus. So my deployment has been a little unit of 8 skirmishers over here. This is my area of difficult terrain that I get to put down as the Army of Chrace. Then we have another unit of 10 Chracian Woodsmen, another unit of 10 Chracian Woodsmen, and another unit of 10 Chracian Woodsmen in the forest. And then the little unit of 5 was an ambush. Then we had the 5 Sisters of Avalon with the Warbow, and then the 10 Sisters with the Archmage and the Stormweaver in them, and then Corhill and the Battle Standard Bearer. And then all the Chracians get to make a Vanguard move, or the Woodsmen do. So the Sisters are the units that are painted red and white, and then I'm using, these are old Shadow Warrior models that I'm thinking I'm probably going to use as my Woodsman, because I don't think it's worth taking the Lion Cloaks on them, because the Lion Cloaks don't apply against magical shooting, and because of them being skirmishers already, I'm not really worried about ballistical shooting going at them. So I don't want to use converted white lions because I don't want to have them in Lion Cloaks, but I would like them to have bows, so I might just be cutting their sword arms off and trying to replace them with some axes to get that look. And then my opponent has put down, these are the Night Goblins, theirs are the Black Orcs. The Wyvern is behind this building, and then he's sort of got his bolt throwers spread across the line, a Doom Diver back here, another Doom Diver, and then the 2 units of Wolves are in the corners to stop my ambushers coming on. So Mountain Pass, I can only ambush onto the back of the table edge, can't come in off the sides. So basically my game plan will be to try and just shoot anything that starts moving closer to me. Like I can move forward if I need to get into shooting range, then basically just keep shooting anything that gets closer, and then the 2 chariots should countercharge anything that gets close. In retrospect, I shouldn't have put them close together, because as my thought was, they can mutually support each other, but because they're both characters, a lot of times they'll just get caught up in a challenge, and then the other one can't really help anyways. And my difficult ground, I just sort of put it down, but I should have put more thought. The ideal thing for it is to counter his fanatics, because you basically can't release them into the terrain, or they'll just die when they go to move. So I did sort of shut down this side of the board, but I could have potentially maybe put it in here, and then there's a bit more terrain for it to catch the fanatics. But I don't know. There's not really I don't really know. I didn't know where he was going to deploy when I put it down, so it's not a huge difference. The chariots are here because I was trying to hide, at least cut off some of his shooting behind the hill. But because they're not large targets, as long as the woodsman or someone standing in front of them, they can't be targeted directly anyways. So it really wasn't, I could have put them more spread out and it would have been fine, and actually would have been less dangerous for the potential doom divers scattering on from one onto the other. So I then did my vanguard move. So basically the woodsmen all moved forward. I then got turn 1 and again just sort of things moved up. The sisters sort of created this odd line so that they could all get some line of sight onto the goblins. These sisters were woodsmen had traveled mystical pathways on them and came forward. I could have done this better. I didn't really need to push forward like this, but I was hoping to start threatening his bolt thrower and wanting the fanatics to, come over this way and not come into the heart of my army. But I did move them. I didn't move them far enough up that the Wolf Riders would have to test for Impetuous to charge me, which would have been good. But I did it. I measured a bit sloppily, and his Wyvern back here could see them. So yeah, just not the best option all in all. But come to think of it, I could have actually really used that to my advantage. We'll get there when we get there. So all the shooting goes into the Night Goblins, kills a lot of them. 20-something Night Goblins. Fireball from the High Sister. I wasn't in range for Wind Blast, and I forgot to cast my Spiritual Vortex template. But yeah, lots of shots go in, but they just pass the leadership. They have the general right there and the Battle Standard Bearer, so they'll be fine. Orcs and Goblins turn. He pushes the Knights Goblins forward so that he can release some fanatics. The Wyvern declared a charge and then rolled double ones. So just failed because of having to wheel. And then, yeah. And he doesn't have Warband because he's a Black Orc. A Pillar of Fire came out. And yeah, the Chariot moved up to get around the difficult terrain. And the Black Orcs that have the level 4 just sort of pushed forward a little bit. His shooting was pretty ineffective because of all my skirmishers. So then, this would have been in my turn. He releases the fanatics over here. I declare the charge into the flank of the Night Goblin unit, takes some damage for fanatics on the way in, and then he moves the fanatics, I think 2 fanatics through me as well. At least I think I'm left with 3 woodsmen when we actually get to the fight. And what happens is I think they only do a single wound. He has a banner and close order. So I'm outnumbered and I run away. Or I fall back in good order and he get far enough away that he can't really pursue me. The rest of my shooting had gone into the Black Orcs, I think. I shot a few off. This unit had gotten travel mystical pathways forward. You know what? I think it had gone in. Definitely some shooting had gone into the Wyvern and had been unsuccessful. So, yeah, that would be the end of my turn. So yeah, 2 fanatics died on the wall. One's left close to me. That fanatic moves backwards. The Pillar of Fire doesn't reach me, and then I think he removed it and then was going to cast it again, sort of in the center of my units, but I managed to dispel it. His Chariot pushed up his... I think basically he forgot to move his Wyvern was the issue here. Yeah, the Goblins came, shot this unit and dropped them below 25%, so they're now not going to rally. And the Black Orcs marched or Arcane Urgency up onto the hill so they can see some targets to charge. Into Elf turn 3, I believe. We get Word of Pain and Plague of Rust onto the Black Orc unit, onto the Black Orc unit. Basically just try and put all our shots into them and get them down to just 2 models left. So 2 of the Black Orcs and then the Battle Standard Bearer and the level 4 Wizard. But we can't, didn't quite manage to do enough. I think he dispelled Fireball from the Ruby Ring and I think Wind Blast as well. The Yeah, and there was no combats that turn. So orcs turn 3. The black orcs back off the hill. The chariot pushes forward, and the wyvern pushes forward. The I think a stone thrower or bolt thrower lands on the chariot and does 2 wounds to it. I think I'm counting up. I don't have a consistent way. And okay. So last turn, my ambushers, I rolled 2 4s in a row. The first turn I chose not to bring them on, but then on turn 3 I had to. So my ambushers just walked on the very back of the table. So now he's moved his goblin wolf riders away because he's no longer worried about my ambushers arriving. I had been out of range for his chariot, but he just sort of moved forward, and I managed to cast Battle Lust onto my woodsman who charged in, and they managed to do, that's their wound roll. They did 5 wounds to the chariot. He had a 6-up save because of the dead out armor, but he didn't make any of them, so he's down to 1 wound left. And I forced him to fall back in good order, but didn't really matter. He stuck around. Whoops. Okay. I moved my chariot, I think with travel mystical pathways, up onto the hill, basically thinking that I can put it in. I was out of arc of the wyvern, and thinking that I can hopefully pin this unit of black orcs down here. I'm not going to get impact hits if I charge, but I'm happy to just get in this fight and try and finish off this unit, lock in combat. Everyone else shoots into the wyvern. It doesn't don't really manage to do anything. The core hill sort of set up so if he charges the Sisters of Avalon, they can challenge, then use stubborn to fall back in good order, and then I'll be able to make a flank charge into the wyvern. The Orcs and Goblins turn 4, I think. The chariot now wins the combat, and I'm going to fall back and maybe just gave ground that time. Actually, I think that's still the elf turn. So yeah, now the chariot's won. It's forced me to fall back in good order. I only have 3 woodsmen left. The wyvern charged into this unit of woodsmen who challenged and then fell back in good order. Unfortunately, so that was a mistake. I shouldn't have challenged there. I should have just fought the combat, hoped that everyone died, broke, and ran down, and then he was left. His wyvern was sort of left stuck here, ready to be charged by my chariot. But now because I fought the challenge, he's now still fighting me on my turn, and I can't get my chariot to charge in, and I can't shoot him. So that was a little misplay. And we missed the most important thing. So, this is such a. My chariot here is just shot off by the bolt throwers and the doom divers. So, unfortunate, he had 3 up armor, 5 up board, 5 up regen, and I just feel like he didn't make any of his saves. It was overly risky, probably doing that, and they probably he could have just dumped the characters out of the unit and ran away, and then I'm just left trying to fight 2 black orcs, which isn't worthwhile. That chariot's, I think, like 330 points. So yeah, that was a mistake, pushing the chariot up there, especially after I had taken wounds on it. So the high elf turn, I mystical pathways the chariot again over top of the wyvern. Moved the sisters up so I could shoot at the black orcs. These woodsmen moved forward so they could shoot and then hopefully get a charge over there. My ambusher unit of woodsmen has come on, and we're just trying to putting a bunch of shots, splitting our shots, which is, as always, is a mistake. So trying to kill off the black orcs and kill off the chariot, and we managed neither. But the wyvern finishes off that woodsman unit and then reforms. He chooses to go into the rear of Corhill, and the chariot charges the woodsman, who, if I had have fled, there was a possibility that he could have just redirected into the sisters, who can't flee, and I'd rather the woodsman take the charge than the sisters do. So they just held. But I lose the challenge and then I roll high, and he runs them down. The Ogre Blade Orboss does... How many wounds does Corhill have? He puts Corhill down to 1 wound, does 5 wounds to Corhill. Corhill does no wounds back to the wyvern. He rolled, I think, like 2 or 3 ones on his wound rolls. And he's not great if he doesn't get the charge. He's +1 strength and +1 attack if he charges, but I didn't feel like I had a lot of options with him. So, yep, the fight continues the next turn between the Orboss and Corhill is slain. But the sisters and the mages managed to kill off the Black Orc unit and the Battle Standard Bearer, and just the level 4 is left. This unit of woodsmen charges the bolt thrower and kills it and gets into the enemy's deployment zone, but he has moved his 2 units of wolf riders into my deployment zone, and the wyvern, who charges the small sister unit in his turn. If he had charged this unit, I would have just challenged and then used stubborn, and he wouldn't have gotten any points. So he chose to go into the sisters, who did challenge but then rolled an 11 on their break test and ran away anyways in a rundown. So that was the end of the battle. My 2 mages are left. I have 2 units of woodsmen left, 1 small unit of woodsmen that are fleeing, and then the big unit of sisters. And I took out the night goblins, the Battle Standard Bearer. I did manage to plink off the last wound with that sisters unit before they died. And I killed the Black Orcs, Battle Standard Bearer, the level 2 mage. But he did win the scenario. He had more banners and more unit strength in my deployment zone. So it's like an extra 300 victory points. And he was a bit ahead on victory points anyways. I think it was pretty close. Yeah, I think he had like 11 or 1200 and I had around 1000. But yeah, close game, but a good win to the Orcs and Goblins. It was looking pretty good around the turn 3 or 4 mark when I had shot off the Night Goblins and had almost wiped out the Black Orcs with my shooting. But then after he committed in his 2 characters, the Chariot and the Wyvern, like, I really had nothing that could stand against them. So if oh yeah, that's what I was going to. So the turn that my Chariot was on the hill, he initially rolled and failed Impetuous for his Goblin Wolf Riders, and then would have had to have charged the Chariot, which would have meant that he couldn't have shot at it with his war machines. But then we remember that the Black Orc has Quell Impetuosity, and that he was probably in range to stop the Wolf Riders from having to do that, which would have been that could have potentially been a fairly big swing. It would have let me hopefully kill off the Wolf Riders with the Chariot, reform in my turn and get off a charge with my own Chariot. But yeah, unlike High Elves who suffer from Impetuosity on Dragon Princes, Orcs and Goblins often don't have to worry about it. Yeah, so my big takeaway from this Chracian army is that moving all these skirmishers was a real pain. You have to do a vanguard. Well, you don't have to, but you're going to want to do a vanguard move. So that's basically an extra turn of movement at the start of the game. And then they don't really want to fit onto movement trays because you're trying to maximize the number of shots, but you don't have Norse cover like sisters do. So it's more important how you line up. And then you also don't want them being too strung out in case they're charged or or want to charge, because you don't want to lose guys to coherency. So they're a struggle to move. I do think that it's a cool feeling list. Like, I like the idea of a bunch of multi-purpose skirmishing units running around on the board, trying to outmove the opponent. But actually playing it wasn't as fun as I was hoping. It felt a bit tedious moving them all. And yeah, I think having a dragon instead of the two chariots would have definitely made the army feel a bit different. He isn't strong enough to bully any of the Black Orc units on his own. So yeah, I might try it again with the dragon at some point if someone wants to face the dragon. But otherwise, I'm keen to try out the Grand Army from the High Elves with the new magic items, and maybe with the Stormweaver. The Stormweaver I was really excited about with dark magic, Word of Pain, and then the battle lust on these guys felt really cool when they got an extra attack and hatred. Allowed them to put those 5 wounds onto that tough chariot. But I think Word of Pain is a 10 to cast, and she's only level 3, so you have to roll a 7, and they're then only trying to also roll a 7 to deny you, so it doesn't feel as reliable as I was hoping that Word of Pain would be a real game changer for High Elves, because -1 toughness really counters their main weakness, which is that they struggle against high toughness armies. But the Stormweaver isn't as reliable as certainly a level 4 with a reroll is. So still something to play around with. Still excited that we have access to dark magic, but harder to use than I was hoping. And yeah. Anyway, overall, it's a fun game. Fun to try them out. Have to think about what I want to do for modeling for the Chracian Woodsman if I keep working on this army. But anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.